This is Mike from Windows7Forums.com, and in this video we will discuss Windows 7 Service Pack 1 and all of the details that most people don't know about, including all of the new features. I am here with my friend Joe Stackhouse, who is an information technology expert. We're going to go through every single new feature that we have found in Windows 7 Service Pack 1 and discuss with you ways to identify Windows 7 Service Pack 1 in the operating system. Let's get started. Ready, Joe?
I'm ready.
Alright, we're going to discuss some changes common to Service Pack 1 with both the client and server. And when we discuss client and server, we're talking about Windows Server 2008 R2 Service Pack 1 and Windows 7 Service Pack 1. Windows 7 Service Pack 1 includes a complete roll-up of prior updates. This is prior to November or so, even December, I believe, in some cases, of 2010. There are some other changes, including the behavior of restoring previous folders at Logon. So, whereas, Joe, you might know a little bit more about this, previous folders used to be just restored randomly. They'll now be, instead of cascadingly restored, they'll be restored in a way that was in their original condition, correct?
Correct. Even, I do believe, I think I've also tested this across multiple monitors. So wherever you had the folders when it shut down, that's where they come when it comes back up.
Right. So you'll never lose the folder location. That's a little, tiny little feature they added there for whatever reason. Now there is also enhanced support for additional identities in RRAS and IPsec. This is IKE v2 Authentication Protocol. Would you like to go a little bit more into this, Joe?
I'm not too familiar with it. I read a little bit about it. It just offers a variety of additional ways of identifying over IPsec and RIS, including email IDs or certificate subjects, with which, if you're really technical, you probably know what those things are. And for most people, they probably don't even care.
Right. I mean, most people won't be experiencing this in any type of environment. No. RAS is Remote Access Server, and Windows is notorious. Microsoft is notorious for promoting this in perimeter networks, and they're sort of networks that require these remote access servers. IPsec, of course, is a protocol that requires a high level of authentication using a Windows network. And IKE version 2 is part of that authentication protocol. And most people won't really be affected by this change, except in large, extremely large corporate networks where RAS servers are probably employed. So we don't see too much of a change in that, but it does affect both Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008. Now, here's an interesting one, and this is one that's really probably going to be something important in the future as far as milestones in computing, at least with Windows. There's been a new support for advanced vector extensions, otherwise known as AVX, for 256-bit instruction set extensions for processors. This is for extensive and extreme floating point operations that occur in 256-bit rather than 32 or 64-bit situations. Joe, do you have anything to add with that?
Well, I think Microsoft must be planning ahead on this one, working with AMD and Intel probably. But basically, just like you said, it's for high advanced 256-bit math, and especially in floating points. It's a new set of instructions and registers, so now at least the operating system will know how to work with these processors. I always thought that the processor was designed first, so I'm guessing Intel and AMD probably already have some really early beta processors for 256-bit instructions, and this was Microsoft's way of saying, hey, we're going to support it.
Right. I mean, I can't think of a single application for 256-bit. I mean, you hear of these supercomputers and things like this, but
I can cancer research, anything to do with multiple, I mean, crunching of numbers will definitely benefit. But as far as the
Right.
desktop user, I don't see 256-bit coming into play for a while.
Right. I mean, in this instance, we're talking about teraflops and Yoda
Right.
bits and all sorts of stuff that, like, the average user doesn't even know about or care about. But it's still pretty cool. The fact that 256-bit is even in the mindset there, and something is in there that supports it, is extremely interesting to me, anyway.
Right.
Alright, so we're coming up here on our changes that are specific to Windows Server 2008. And when we look at these changes, we have Remote FX. Now, Remote FX is an enhancement to the Remote Desktop Protocol, which, of course, involves remote desktop connection. We're going to see a little bit more of 3D acceleration in Remote Desktop Protocol and Remote Desktop connections. And as far as I can tell, according to Joe here, there are some applications being specifically written that make use of this 3D acceleration for remote desktop connections. Now, let me just say before I bring it over to Joe that remote desktop connections specifically are connections that are basically brought about through using Microsoft terminal service software, running a remote desktop connection into another computer, using that protocol, using the Microsoft software to remote in. There's a whole industry involved with remote desktop. This includes GoToMyPC by Citrix, Crossloop by Crossloop Incorporated. We've got LogMeIn. We've got a whole bunch of shit. Excuse the language. But this is Remote FX specifically for Remote Desktop Protocol. What do you think about this, Joe?
Well, first of all, I guess we should talk about where Microsoft envisions people using this. They're actually looking at doing this. First of all, what it allows you to do is to remote desktop into a server, or perhaps a virtual server running, well, most likely it's going to be a terminal server, okay? And you'll be able to view high-def, rich content like you could never before in RDP. If anybody's ever played a video over RDP, it's very grainy. You can't hardly see it. Or say you're using AutoCAD. You're trying to work on a 3D model. You can't do that over RDP right now. Well, Remote FX is going to change that. You can actually do 3D capabilities over RDP. Silverlight videos, Adobe Flash, some OpenGL applications will also be supported. It also provides extra USB support. I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but for USB drives, cameras, PDAs, anything connected to the client device will be pushed on to the server. Now, you already see this a little bit today with your hard drives being mounted when you remote desktop into another computer or in your printer, but this takes it a little step further. But I think the biggest improvement there is you're actually going to have 3D stuff and high-def video playing over RDP, which will be awesome.
Right. And I think the big issue is with RDP and RDC is when you can connect to a Windows client without having to worry about the firewall, the hardware firewall and the software firewall, and you have these capabilities, that will be truly amazing, because we see that with GoToMyPC by Citrix, and you can easily stream music and use 3D sort of DirectX type of enhancements.
As I read the document right now, Mike, though, it won't work between client and client.
Oh.
It looks like it's a client-to-server only technology, and it looks like what Microsoft is envisioning is the person in the office will be sitting in front of some kind of thin client that connects back to a virtual server running multiple virtual operating systems and allowing all the 3D content to be basically, all your virtual systems can be held in the data center, your people RDP into it, and work just as if they were working at their machine. So that's what the technology, to me, looks like the direction that it's going in.
Right. So this actually won't be something that's experienced a client to client whatsoever.
Now, and I've already tested it. I've tested Vista Service Pack 1 to, Windows 7 Service Pack 1 to Windows 7 Service Pack 1, and I did not get Aereo effects. I did not get anything of the sort, so it's not there at that level.
All right, well, this is Joe Stackhouse and Mike Fara continuing our discussion of Windows 7 Service Pack 1. Server 2008 supports dynamic memory. And what does that mean, Joe, exactly?
Dynamic memory, I do believe we were talking about this earlier, that VMware has had this for a while. But I'm pretty sure this affects the virtual environment where virtual machines can compete for memory. So you can set like a maximum. You can say, all my virtual machines get 12 gigs of memory. But depending on the way the machines are set, I've actually seen the configuration for this and how it works. You can set minimum and maximum per machine, and it will dynamically allocate free memory to those machines, if that makes any sense to you.
Right, exactly. So, for example, VMware Workstation is an application that virtualizes virtual machines software-based, and so it's not a bare metal hypervisor. It's not like you're turning an entire server into a virtual machine hosting computer. In VMware Workstation, for example, you have dynamic memory, and so if you applicate 4 gigabytes of RAM to one Windows XP machine, and you applicate 2 gigabytes of RAM to a Windows Vista machine, when that extra RAM is called upon by the Vista machine, if it's not in use by the XP machine, it will be allocated to the Vista machine. So this is an improvement in dynamic memory that Microsoft is advertising as increasing the performance of their hypervisor product that exists within Server 2008 by pretty much exponentially, I believe. They came out with some advertisements.
It also has one more feature. I'm pretty sure I've seen this in the configuration where it will dynamically also take more memory from the host operating system as needed, as long as it's free.
Right. And again, I hate to bring up Workstation, but it does have that feature as well. There's that cache that they have, and you can allocate as much RAM as you want to be taken from the host machine when it's needed, which again, Microsoft following in the footsteps of other virtualization providers such as Citrix and VMware. But again, it is a step in the right direction, and you can't fault something that is the right thing to do. So it's good to see that people who purchase licenses for Server 2008 are getting their money's worth, and if that involves virtualization, good idea. It's good to see that in a service pack, actually. So again, here we have Direct3d Upgrade, and this is something that has affected us specifically when trying to record these videos. We have Fraps, which is a software application that records normally anything on the desktop and anything in a game or in an application that uses Direct3d. The Direct3d stack has apparently been upgraded, and this was also offered as a standalone graphics update on Microsoft.com's Download Center prior to the release of Service Pack 1. Now, this update has apparently rendered the program Fraps, which is used by a lot of gamers to benchmark their performance, and as well as me to make videos, useless for the most part. What else do you know about this upgrade, if anything, Joe?
I don't know too much about it, to be honest. Just like you said, the issues that we noticed, they've changed the way that graphics overlay. I have to believe this is related to future improvements. Not necessarily remote FX, but I'm not sure what they did there.
Yeah, we're thinking it's remote FX, but we're not really sure.
Right.
One thing we do know is that when Fraps tries to access the first overlay in Windows, which would be the entire desktop overlay, which is basically, if you imagine an overlay as the entire Windows desktop itself as a big square, it's not able to access that whatsoever, and I'm assuming that there may be several other applications that are having the same issue. but this is specifically something that occurs apparently only in Service Pack 1 due to this Direct3d upgrade. And for whatever reason, it's been upgraded, probably for some sort of remote access or remote desktop protocol support. We don't know for sure, and that's something that we're a little unclear on. Probably mostly because the information hasn't been made available. And of course, we discussed direct access, but one thing we didn't discuss was well, actually, we didn't discuss direct access.
No, direct access is new.
Yeah, and we wanted to discuss the VPN corporate network, seamless corporate network that exists in Server 2008 R2 Service Pack 1. How exactly does this work, Joe, and what do you think?
Well, you can basically take direct access and think of it as an always-on VPN. It uses IPsec, standard high-level encryption, to seamlessly, as soon as a user fires up their machine and their internet becomes available, they immediately have access to any intranet web servers, file shares. So say you get an email that has a link to a server, a document on a server. You could click on that link and it would seamlessly just connect to the document and you'd have it. There's no need for the user to actually go click on a VPN link anymore. It's just there. I have my reservations on this thing though. I'm wondering how much bandwidth does it use? I mean, does it really slow down that much? Now I can see system administrators really loving this. You can always remote desktop to your client machines, no matter where they're at, as long as internet's on. Group policy will always hit them. You can push out software updates no matter where somebody was at. But again, this all depends on their speed of their connection. It might actually make things worse. So direct access sounds kind of cool, but I like being able to turn my VPN on and off.
Right. If this is something you can't turn off, that may create a privacy issue for someone out there. But you know, something is interesting. Does this direct access work in Windows 7 specifically, or is it only? I guess it's only for Server 2008 R2 SP1 to connect different.
No. This is for Windows 7 machines to connect back to the 2008 R2 via a seamless VPN.
Oh, I see. So the
reason why it's under the server function is because VPNs are more thought of the server side of things.
Right. See, this is very interesting. And for those of you that don't know, a virtual private network is a way of connecting to a LAN, basically through using cryptography and using it can be a router-to-router VPN or it can be a software-based VPN, and you're connecting to another computer network using hardware or software. Most of the time it's software, and usually it involves dial-up. And this is quite interesting because you'll if you use this and employ it in a work environment, your computer may very well be permanently connected to a VPN, and you'll always have access to corporate network resources, but at the same time the corporate network will also have access most likely to your resources.
And actually I have to make a correction. Direct access has been in Server 2008 R2 but pre-SP1, but this is a major improvement to it. Okay, it's an enhancement to the how should I say it? It's an enhancement to it's improvements to enhance the scalability and the availability, and using IPv6 over an IPv4 tunnel to connect back. So actually, it's been there, but they've improved it a lot.
Right. So we're not just limited to IP version 4 IP addresses.
Right. So I don't want to make it sound like direct access is completely new.
Right. Gotcha. Unfortunately, I haven't exactly heard of it, but we'll continue. Yeah, we went through dynamic memory already. Dynamic memory, and that's something that we can bypass. For some reason, it's twice on our list, maybe because we thought it was pretty cool, but we'll go through MSAs. And this is Active Directory support for managed service accounts. Now, I know a lot about Active Directory, Joe, but I don't know too much about these managed service accounts, or exactly what we're referring to when we talk about MSAs. What exactly has been changed here, and what are we talking about here?
Well, unfortunately, I don't know a whole lot about them either, and I support a lot of medium and even large-sized clients. This is mostly used in huge corporate environments, but this is support for managed service accounts in secure branch office scenarios. Okay, so Service Pack 1 enables enhanced support for managed service accounts to be used on domain member services located in perimeter networks. So I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it's some kind of service account, obviously, that interacts with Active Directory, and not sure exactly what they're used for.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is one of those obscure type of changes where
somebody out there is going, yeah, but it's not us.
Right, yeah, I mean, somebody out there knows what this is, but we don't. And it's one of those things where Active Directory has really become such a complex, almost an artificial organism of sorts, that it's so complex in its design and its complexity, especially on large networks, that when we start talking about managed service accounts, personally, I think every account is managed and it involves service. So, I mean, I don't even know what we're talking about here. But unfortunately, this is one of those areas where we just have no friggin' idea what
I can make a guess if you'd like.
Go ahead.
I've read a little bit about it, and you know how certain services on even your Windows 7 client machine run as a network service, right?
Right.
So it looks to me what these are groups, or a service that you can install in Active Directory, but then goes out and manages multiple services. Does that make sense?
It's possible. Yeah. I mean,
that's what it looks like by looking at some of the examples I've seen.
Right. So I mean, there's obviously, if we have erred, but that's a good possibility from Joe there. Personally, right. I'm not going to even guess at what this is, but it sounds.
Somebody comment on this video if they know.
Yeah, it'll be used at some point, and someone will, eventually everyone will know what it is. But at this point, we have no idea. But thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Absolutely. And now we'll talk about some new features specific to Windows 7. And Joe, do you want to take the lead on this one?
The HDMI audio things. I never had problems with this myself, but apparently a small percentage of Windows 7 users reported issues, like when they shut down their computer, the connection between Windows 7 and their HDMI audio devices would be lost. So they fixed some of that, and they've also fixed the performance of some HDMI devices. That's pretty much all there is to be said.
Yeah, it looks like probably my first inclination would be if you're connecting into a non-standard HDMI device, and
yeah, like a high-end device that maybe like a DJ would use or something,
something weird. Yeah, I mean, like for instance, I have a really obscure television that uses HDMI, and I would hope that this somehow encompasses that, but that may just be wishful thinking. But I somehow hope that that would involve connecting into a TV, HDMI TV that was at the forefront at the time, new or something. But yeah, it looks like it has something more to do with performance and disconnecting and reconnecting in certain specific instances. We also have additional support for third-party federation services. And of course, when we think about federation services, we once again come back to Active Directory. This, of course, involves making Windows Client authenticate to network operating systems a little bit better. Joe, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, my guess is, just like you said, allowing third-party server authentication standards to work better with Active Directory and Windows clients is my guess. Actually, it says it's specific to Windows 7, so...
Right,
sure. So,
I mean, these enhancements, you won't see them with older operating systems, including Vista and XP.
Right.
Obviously XP is on its way out as far as support, and any sort of enhancements you'll see to the Federation services would be incorporated in a service pack like this. What interests me the most about this is that most people believe that Service Pack 1 is just a roll-up of updates, but we do have some significant server-to-client transactions here that have been improved in one way or another. Now that may be minor improvements here and there, but overall those are improvements. And most people don't think of the Microsoft Windows operating system as a client to a server, and that really is what it is. And as we move more towards cloud computing and things of that nature, we start to really see that this is a client, it's connected to a server, and there's a lot to that, and it may become even more important a few years from now. So there's another issue where authentication and security has somehow been improved. And of course we have the corrected XPS document printing issues. This fixes issues with portrait and landscape mode printing with XPS documents. Now XPS is of course an alternative to PDF, which is portable document format, which was I believe it was at least made publicly known by Macromedia, which was a company of course acquired by Adobe Systems. And XPS is, of course, Microsoft's equivalent to that. Anything you have to put into that, Joe?
Nope. Just I guess Microsoft had some customers reporting difficulty when printing mixed orientation, like maybe an XPS document with one portrait and then one landscape and then another portrait document, and they wouldn't print right, and they fixed the issue. It's a very minor fix, but it is included.
Right. And of course the rest of the updates are simply roll-ups, which are very helpful for enterprise environments. So that's about it for our PDF presentation. The next step that we want to go through very quickly is the idea that you can in fact look about this installation and determine what's involved. Currently the leaked file is available through Windows7forums.com and many other sites, might I add. It's digitally signed by Microsoft. This is the 64-bit version, and it was digitally signed November 22nd, 2010. And it'll take a while for the certificate to come up. But also wanted to look at ways to identify your build, because some people I've noticed seem to be still running on the release candidate or don't exactly know what they're doing, and a lot of this has to do with Softpedia, because Softpedia actually linked to this the RTM bits, and either they were asked by Microsoft not to publish them, or they just took them down because too much bandwidth was being used, and they made that as an excuse. We haven't been asked to take down the RTM, so if you look here, you'll see when you go into regedit, and that's using the command line, you type in cmd, of course, run as administrator, regedit, you can go to hkey, local machine, software, Microsoft, Windows NT, and current version. You'll see the build number right here, which is 7601 17514 AMD 64 free, or FRE, Win7SP1 _RTM 101119-1850. And you'll see that repeated several times, and that's a great way to find out that you have the Service Pack 1 build. These bits will not be changed. There'll be a redistributable version on Microsoft.com's Download Center, as well as a Windows Update version, which will be much smaller. And if we go to the command line utility here, we can type in system info. Most people don't know about this command, and Joe brought it up a little bit earlier. And it'll actually load a lot of information about our computer here. Network cards, hotfixes, all sorts of stuff. But what we want to do is scroll up and take a look at our OS version. Okay, this will indicate to you exactly that you're using build 7601 instead of 7600. That indicates to you that you're using. See here, this is an excellent way to determine exactly what's going on with your computer, not only with the service pack, but in general, with exactly just some basic information that you'd normally be able to get from system information if you went to that. But it's nice to see it in a command prompt for some reason. And also, if you type in version, oh, I'm sorry, VER. This is from back in the MS-DOS days. You'll just see, yeah, 6.1.7601. Now, the release candidate which was released before the final RTM, will also show this information. So you want to be very careful, and that's why you really want to enter the registry and make sure that you're running the service pack by making sure that the final build that you're using ends in 1850. Now, as far as the service pack is concerned, are there performance improvements? Sure. There have been sites, specifically I think overclock.net or overclocking.net, and they've done some benchmarking on games and using benchmarking software, and they found a couple FPS faster responses by using the service pack. This is probably due to the consolidation and roll-up of updates more than anything else, and maybe even the Direct3d update that took place.
I noticed one performance issue myself. I had 7 installed practically since it came out, and for some reason my UAC prompts were prompting me very slowly. I would almost hear my system sound before I'd even see the window for UAC to pop up. And since installing Service Pack 1, they pop up immediately now. They're very responsive. Other than that, I'd have to say it's almost the same. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this was something that you don't want to opt out of when it does come up for you, but it's also something that's not critical. So it's something, again, you don't want to ignore and say, oh, I don't need this ever. But it's definitely something that you want to endorse, but at the same time you don't want to be you know, having a heart attack over trying to find it and download it, etc.
Now I've installed this on several machines and never had any problems. But did you have any problems installing Service Pack, Mike?
I did actually have several problems, and this was the result of Windows Side by Side. Which is located at C.
I've been into those before.
Yeah, Windows C, Windows, Win, SXS, and this contains basically a manifest of all of your Windows system files that you need in order to restore from a failed or damaged installation. My Windows side-by-side folders had become corrupt from power failures, and so I just recently bought a new UPS, which is an uninterruptible power supply. At the time, I had a Windows setting set so that I had the fastest possible performance, but in exchange, if there was a power failure of any type or a crash of any type, I would completely lose my data. And this, of course, is in the hard drive area of properties. And I believe it might not be in every single drive. Actually, you might actually have to really search for it. But it was involving the write-back cache.
Yeah, it's actually if you have a UPS, turn it on. It actually can increase the throughput from your hard drive as much as 25%.
Right, and I of course had this on. Unfortunately, my computer crashed several times with the UPS having failed. Due to brownouts over the summer, and
I don't think you're seeing the option because you're in a virtual machine. Actually,
yeah, because we're in a virtual machine, we're not seeing it. But my Windows side-by-side files were corrupt, and if that happens, you'll actually be prevented from installing the Service Pack. The Service Pack is pretty thorough at analyzing the files that you have. Especially, it seems to focus on Windows side-by-side, and if you have files that are missing, it will not allow you to update. At least with the RTM version that we have, which will basically be the same one released to the general public through general availability, you'll have a problem if your files have been corrupted in any way. And I have the same problem on my Windows laptop, because there have been plenty of times where I've left the laptop on in high performance mode where it has actually crashed. And in that case, some of the Windows side-by-side files have become corrupt. So you want to watch out for any sort of file corruption. You want to do a system file check, integrity check, and also, of course, a check disk. But that may not help you if you've had corruption. And if that's the case, just wait for the Windows Update version and see if they've made it a little bit lighter and easier for you to install. But for the most part, I've had some weird issues related to upgrading. But Joe, did you want to talk about the Service Pack and the fact that it's mostly a roll-up of updates, and that, you know, there haven't been too many extreme features added to it?
Yeah, I guess it's not really a surprise. Microsoft at one point, I remember I was at a conference about a year ago, they they kind of hinted at not releasing so many updates, new features, I should say, to products via service packs. But what if you think about, as far as a software vendor, and especially an operating system vendor, what better way to test a new feature than to go ahead and release it to Windows 7 and gather all that error reporting and experience before you go and put it in Windows 8, and especially even your newer server product. So they're still doing it a little bit, but not as much as I would like. I'd like to see more features than they even included. Some of these were very minor features, but some of them probably took a lot of coding. I mean, so
right.
But it'd be great if they continue to add more features, not just roll-ups, but more features.
Yeah. In some cases, I think we take a lot of Windows development for granted. I mean, billions of dollars have gone into Windows development, and we don't exactly know where all that money goes, nor should we really.
Well, think about just the 256-bit capability instruction set. That probably took a little while to create.
Yeah.
So, I guess we really can't complain that much.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, I think that the major problem started with Vista and the fact that prior to Vista Service Pack 1, that operating system was extremely unstable. It received extremely bad reviews. Of course, there was that, well, I guess, self-proclaimed security and news company Gartner constantly going at Microsoft, telling everyone that this is a security risk to even use this operating system with Windows Vista. And this led ultimately to them including the Server 2000, what was it? Server 2008 actually kernel in Service Pack 1. And so that was a major update through a service pack for the Windows Vista operating system, and I think they're trying to sort of lower down that you know, they don't want to live up to that expectation of, you know, every time there's a service pack we're going to fix everything, and not only that, but we're going to include a crap load of new updates. I think that they don't really want their customers to expect that. A service pack, by definition, is generally a roll-up of updates, but I would like to see some new features too. I think the major problem is that a lot of people who buy the operating system are waiting for Service Pack 1. They don't want to buy it until Service Pack 1 comes out. They don't want to adopt it until Service Pack 1 comes out. And Windows 7 in this case was really an operating system where out of the box you could adopt this in an enterprise environment and would work excellently. So,
yeah.
You know, in that case, I could understand why, from a marketing perspective, they probably don't want to, you know, include all this new stuff and promise all this new stuff in a service pack.
Right. I have one more question before we wrap this up, Mike.
Sure.
Does this include capabilities of doing backwards compatibility to just, if you want to run a program in Windows 7 non-service pack mode?
Absolutely. This is a great feature of Service Pack 2, and we don't know how great it is, obviously, because it hasn't been extensively tested. But here we have this Ada, or Ida, not sure exactly how it's pronounced, because we just don't. But this is a diagnostic utility for Windows 7. And you can go here and monitor all of your software, hardware, everything that's going on. And it's a great little tool that doesn't rely on drivers, and that's one of the most important parts about it. Now, just say we were having some sort of weird issue with this program, which obviously we won't because it's programmed very well. We could go to this program, right-click on it, go to Properties, and go to Compatibility. Under Compatibility, we can run this program in Windows 7 compatibility mode. So this is something that's brand new. It will allow us to try to tell the program we are not in fact running build 7, in fact in build 7601.
All right.
And so when we use this feature, we are in fact fooling the program into thinking we're running the earlier version of Windows 7. Now, how exactly this interacts with the software and what benefit it can provide, we don't know. I just mentioned before that this was a new feature, and that's incorrect. This is just a new subset or new option of a feature that has existed for a very long time. In fact, we can emulate Windows 95 using this feature. Now, how often this feature is used? Probably very rarely, but it does have its uses from time to time, and it's great that there is this compatibility mode, and it hasn't been forgotten, and there is compatibility mode for Windows 7 and not, you know, just Windows Vista. We can now pretend we don't have Service Pack 1 and go back and tell this program we're using Windows 7. Now, we've discussed almost everything about Service Pack 1 as much as we can. Joe, do you have anything to wrap it up as far as your thoughts?
No, not too much. I do have more details about the size of the packages, stuff like that. I don't know if you want to go in that much detail, but
when you say size of the packages, what are you talking about?
The Windows Update packages, when this is finally released to consumers,
yes,
the download size is supposed to range between 23 megabytes and 51 megabytes, depending on your system architecture. So it's quite a bit smaller than the standalone downloads that we have currently linked on the website.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you look at the file we're looking at now, this is the 64-bit version that leaked and was sent to manufacturers. And of course we see the certificates here and the Microsoft Root Certificate Authority, Root CA certificate. This file, which is authentic and will upgrade your Windows 7 64-bit machine to Service Pack 1, includes nearly every language, 36 language packs, and is 903 megabytes. So if you're talking about like a 24, 25 megabyte Windows update, that's fantastic compared to what we're dealing with here.
Right. And also there will be a Itanium 64-bit release for those running Itanium processors.
Right. And that's one area where we haven't seen leaked whatsoever. And of course, we know in certain environments we do have Itanium processors running. But this is an enormous download, and remember, it's designed for manufacturers, not only manufacturers, but redistributable to work on many different languages, in fact 2 different operating systems, and 36 different languages, which is the reason it's 903 megabytes. Once that Windows Update comes down the tube, you'll be looking at something, as Joe said, 25 megabytes, 30 megabytes, whatever it is that suits your system. So that'll be pretty interesting.
There will also, according to the Microsoft documentation, there will also be one update you must install before you can download the Service Pack through Windows Update. And I'm not sure how big that update's going to be.
If I'm not, I'm sorry, Joe. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that update's already been pushed out.
Oh, yeah, it's possible. I believe
I believe it was a staging update. And I do believe it's KB 95488. I'm not sure for certain. Hold on, let me check one sec, and I think our viewers will appreciate this in a certain respect.
Go Google it or look at your history.
Yeah, we have it actually on Windows7forums.com. If I type in Service Pack 1 staging, I believe that this topic, I'm sorry, it's the wrong one that I mentioned before, but it is KB 976902. This was the mystery update that was apparently deployed on or around 2 or 3 weeks ago, and no one knew what this update was for. There was no documentation for it. But when you actually go here, it's described in the knowledge base article 97602 as
it's a servicing stack update.
Exactly. So will allow your computer to download the service pack and additional updates after that. Otherwise, you'd still be stuck without the service pack downloading updates that aren't involved.
All right.
All right. Well, I believe we've covered everything here, Joe. There's a million other things to talk about, especially with that 256-bit support. We could really research and get into that completely, but it's been great discussing this issue.
Do you want to show them exactly where the download link is on your website?
Absolutely. Go to Windows7forums.com, and remember, we have Microsoft MVPs, certified professionals, and other IT pros just like Joe and myself who have said this is the official version. Not only that, but we have a Microsoft employee from the Windows Team blog who says this is the official version. And we've definitely checked the authenticity of these files, made sure that the digital signatures haven't been violated. And if you go to Windows7forums.com, Windows 7 discussion, just go to Windows 7 Service Pack 1 download available, which is listed right here as the URL. You'll be able to download Service Pack 1 from 3 different locations. You can download it from our content delivery network, from a torrent file, and oftentimes torrents get a bad reputation, but that's not really the case in this case. Torrents can be used to share free public files and especially computer support files. And you can also download from our main server in Chicago, Illinois, which is not recommended because you can potentially, if we had a lot of people downloading, we would crash our whole server. We don't want that to happen. But you have the 32-bit version and the 62-bit version, or 64-bit version, sorry. And remember, this is a great thing. But you do not need it specifically. It's not an emergency. You can wait.
If you're wondering about more details, this thread has tons of details about the update. So.
Absolutely. We explained to you how to remove the installation files, how to block it from installing, how to slipstream it, and we have all sorts of discussion, over 200 replies to this where you can talk about this information. So again, yeah, that's where you can find it for now, but if you're a TechNet subscriber, MSTN subscriber, or if you have a volume license key, you'll be able to download it from Microsoft tomorrow. Otherwise, February 22nd is the day to get Service Pack 1. Joe, I think we're done here, huh?
I think we did a pretty good job. Please comment on this video if you have any more information to add.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everyone, and be sure to visit us at Windows7forums.com. I hope this is one of many videos Joe and I do together. It's fantastic that we've been able to work as a team in order to discuss so many issues related to Service Pack 1 and other technology. Take care and have a great day.